r/ProRevenge best friend got me fired, so I exposed their 9-month lie. The client presentation was supposed to be my moment. 3 years of 60-hour weeks, missed birthdays, and living on instant ramen had led to this, presenting our campaign strategy to Meridian Industries, the biggest account our firm had ever landed. I'd rehearsed every slide, memorized every statistic, and double-checked every detail with Maya, my best friend and fellow marketing coordinator. Which is why I stood there in absolute horror as Mr. Meridian's face darkened with each word I spoke. "Excuse me," he interrupted, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Did you just suggest we target 18 to 24-year-olds for luxury retirement planning? And did I hear correctly that you want to run ads during Saturday morning cartoons?" My stomach dropped. Those weren't my recommendations. Maya and I had spent weeks researching Meridian's demographic, affluent professionals aged 35 to 55. We'd planned sophisticated campaigns for financial podcasts and business publications. I glanced at my presentation slides in panic, but there they were, every detail wrong, every strategy backwards, every number completely fabricated. There must be some mistake, I stammered, frantically clicking through slides that bore no resemblance to the presentation I'd prepared the night before. "These aren't the right figures." "Enough." Mr. Meridian stood abruptly, his face flushed with anger. "This is either gross incompetence or complete disrespect for our time. Either way, I'm done here." The conference room fell silent except for the sound of him gathering his papers. 3 years of building a relationship with this client, gone in 10 minutes. I watched helplessly as he walked out, followed by his entire team. My supervisor, Janet, waited exactly 30 seconds after the door closed before turning to me with an expression I'd never seen before, cold, disappointed, and final. My office. Now. The next hour was a blur of humiliation. Janet's voice seemed to come from underwater as she listed my failures, presenting incorrect data, wasting everyone's time, losing our biggest client before we'd even officially landed them. I tried to explain that someone had tampered with my files, that this wasn't the presentation I'd created, but every excuse sounded more pathetic than the last. "Sarah, I've watched you work for 3 years. You're talented, but you've been distracted lately. Making careless mistakes, missing details. Maybe this job isn't the right fit anymore." Careless mistakes. I'd won 2 company awards last year. I'd never missed a deadline, never presented anything without triple checking it. But sitting in that chair, staring at the presentation that had somehow replaced mine, I began to doubt my own memory. "Clean out your desk," Janet said finally. "Security will escort you out." The walk to my cubicle felt endless. Maya rushed over the moment she saw me packing my plant and picture frames into a cardboard box. "Oh my God, what happened?" Her brown eyes were wide with concern, her voice pitched high with what sounded like genuine shock. I heard shouting from the conference room. "The presentation was all wrong," I said numbly, wrapping my coffee mug in tissue paper. "Everything we worked on was gone. It was like someone replaced it with a completely different file." Maya's hand flew to her mouth. "That's insane. Could it have been a technical glitch? Some kind of software error?" I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe someone was on my side, because in that moment, losing my job felt like losing everything I'd worked for since college. "Maybe," I whispered, though deep down, I knew computers didn't make mistakes like this. Maya helped me carry my box to the elevator, her arm around my shoulders as other coworkers pretended not to stare. The security guard, Mike, who I'd chatted with every morning for 3 years, couldn't meet my eyes as he walked me to the parking garage. "This is so unfair," Maya said, loading my things into my beat-up Honda. "You're the best coordinator they have. Janet's making a huge mistake." I should have felt grateful for her support, but something nagged at me. A tiny detail that didn't fit. When I'd arrived at the office that morning, Maya had already been at her desk, which was unusual. She typically rolled in 10 minutes late with a Starbucks in hand, complaining about traffic. But today she'd been there early, her computer already humming. "Maya," I said slowly, "did you stay late last night? Or come in early?" She blinked, and for just a second, her expression flickered. "No, why would I? I left right after you did yesterday." But that couldn't be right. I'd worked until almost midnight, perfecting every slide. Maya had left at 5:30, claiming she had dinner plans with her husband Derek. "I just thought maybe you'd seen something," I said carefully. "Someone else accessing the files, or..." "Sarah, you're in shock. You're not thinking clearly." Her voice was gentle but firm. "Why don't you go home and rest? We can figure this out later." She was right. I wasn't thinking clearly. Losing your dream job in the span of an hour tends to scramble your brain. I drove home in a daze, already calculating how long my savings would last, wondering how I'd explain this disaster to future employers. My apartment felt smaller somehow, like the walls had moved closer together while I was gone. I set the cardboard box on my kitchen counter and stared at the contents of my former professional life, a wilted succulent, 3 marketing books, world's okayest employee mug that had been a joke gift from Maya. That's when my phone buzzed with a text from Ryan, my boyfriend of 2 years. "Hey babe, working late again tonight. Don't wait up." Perfect. The one person I needed to talk to, and he was pulling another 12-hour shift at his consulting firm. Ryan had been working increasingly long hours lately, sometimes not coming home until after I was asleep. I understood, his job was demanding, but tonight I really needed someone to hold me while I fell apart. I texted back, "Got fired today. Can you come home early?" The response came quickly, "Shit, really? So sorry but I can't leave. Big presentation tomorrow. We'll talk this weekend, promise." Big presentation. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent the evening on my couch, laptop open, scrolling through job listings that all seemed to require experience I apparently didn't have anymore. Who wants to hire someone who got fired for presenting cartoon advertising to retirement planners? Around 11 p.m., I decided to check my work email one last time before they shut down my access. Most of my inbox was the usual corporate nonsense, but one email caught my attention. It was from the IT department, sent automatically at 3:47 a.m. that morning. "Unusual login activity detected on your account." My blood ran cold. I'd been home asleep at 3:47 a.m. I clicked on the email, which provided more details. My account had been accessed from within the office building, specifically from workstation 23B. I knew every workstation number in that office. 23B was Maya's computer. My best friend had logged into my account at nearly 4 in the morning and destroyed my presentation. Then she'd stood beside me, acting shocked and supportive, while I was escorted out like a criminal. The question was, why? I stared at that email until the words blurred together, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my laptop. Maya had destroyed my career. My best friend of 3 years, the person I'd trusted with everything, had deliberately sabotaged me. But why? We'd never competed for promotions, we were at the same level, working on different accounts most of the time. If anything, my success had always helped her too. I'd covered for her when she called in sick, shared my research, even recommended her for the promotion she'd gotten last year. I needed proof. Screenshots of that email, documentation, something concrete I could take to Janet or HR. But even as I saved the files to my desktop, a sinking realization hit me, I was already fired. What was I going to do, march into Janet's office tomorrow and demand my job back? They'd think I was having a breakdown. Sleep was impossible. I paced my apartment until dawn, replaying every interaction with Maya from the past few months. Had there been signs? Red flags I'd missed? The more I thought about it, the more little details surfaced. How she'd been asking more questions about my projects lately, volunteering to help with research she'd never shown interest in before. The way she'd insisted on reviewing my Meridian presentation the day before, claiming she wanted to make sure it was perfect. I'd been grateful for her input. God, I'd actually thanked her for caring so much about my success. Around 6 a.m., exhaustion finally overtook rage, and I dozed off on my couch. I woke up 3 hours later to my phone ringing. Maya's name flashed on the screen. Sarah. How are you holding up? Her voice was sickeningly sweet, dripping with false concern. I'm fine, I lied, my voice hoarse from lack of sleep. I've been thinking about yesterday all night. This whole thing is just so crazy, you know. I mean, who would want to sabotage you? You don't have any enemies at work. The audacity was breathtaking. She was fishing for information, trying to figure out if I suspected anything. I forced myself to sound defeated rather than furious. I don't know. Maybe it really was just a technical glitch, like you said. Probably, she agreed quickly. These things happen. Hey, listen, Derek and I were talking, and we want to take you out for dinner tonight. Somewhere nice, to cheer you up. You shouldn't be alone right now. Derek. Her husband of 5 years, who worked in accounting and collected vintage comic books. Sweet, boring Derek who always laughed too loud at his own jokes during game nights. What had Maya told him about my firing? Did he know what his wife had done? That's really nice of you, but I'm not great company right now. Come on, Sarah. You need to get out of your apartment. Besides, Derek's been asking about you. He feels terrible about what happened. Something in her tone made my skin crawl. The way she emphasized Derek's name, like she was testing my reaction. But why would she? My blood turned to ice as a horrible possibility occurred to me. Maya, can I ask you something? Of course, anything. Yesterday morning, when I saw you at your desk early, you said you hadn't come in early or stayed late. But your computer was already on, like you'd been there for a while. Silence stretched between us for several heartbeats too long. I guess I forgot. I did come in a little early. I couldn't sleep, so I figured I might as well get a head start on the day. She was lying. I could hear it in the slight tremor in her voice, the way she rushed through the words. What time did you get there? I don't know, maybe 7. Sarah, why does this matter? Because you were there at 3:47 a.m. destroying my life, I thought. But I wasn't ready to show my hand yet. No reason. I'm just trying to piece together what happened. Well, stop trying. It'll just drive you crazy. Focus on moving forward, okay? Moving forward. Like it was that simple. Like 3 years of my career could just be written off as bad luck. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at that stupid, world's okayest employee mug, and something finally clicked into place. Maya hadn't just destroyed my presentation on a whim. This was planned, calculated. She'd been setting me up for weeks, maybe months. The question was no longer why she'd done it. The question was what else she was planning. I spent the next 2 days in a haze of rejection emails and growing paranoia. Every job application seemed to hit a wall. Companies that had been interested in my portfolio suddenly went silent after calling my former employer for references. Word travels fast in our industry, and apparently mine was that I was unreliable at best, professionally sabotaged at worst. But it was Ryan's behavior that really started eating at me. You seem distracted, I said Thursday night as he scrolled through his phone during dinner, takeout Chinese that I could barely afford but had ordered to feel normal. Sorry, work stuff. He didn't look up. Jenkins wants the Morrison proposal revised again. Which proposal? The Morrison account. I told you about it last week. Except he hadn't. In 2 years together, Ryan had told me about every major project, every difficult client, every workplace drama in excruciating detail. He was a talker, it was one of the things I'd initially loved about him. But lately, his work stories had become vague, generic. Names without faces, projects without details. Ryan, look at me. He finally glanced up, and for a split second, I saw something that made my stomach clench, guilt. Raw, unmistakable guilt. What's wrong? He asked, but his voice had that careful quality people use when they're hiding something. I got fired 3 days ago and you've barely asked me about it. You haven't held me, haven't let me cry on your shoulder, haven't even seemed particularly upset that your girlfriend's entire career just imploded. His jaw tightened. I've been supportive. You've been absent. Sarah, I'm dealing with my own stress right now. I'm sorry I can't drop everything to manage your crisis, but some of us still have jobs to protect. The words hit like a slap. In all our fights, about money, about his late nights, about my work obsession, he'd never been cruel. Dismissive, maybe. Emotionally unavailable, definitely. but never deliberately hurtful. Some of us still have jobs. I repeated slowly. Are you implying that I didn't protect mine? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He set down his phone with more force than necessary. I meant that I can't afford to screw up at work right now. The Morrison account is huge, and if I mess it up. What Morrison account, Ryan? You work for Hendricks Consulting. I've met your entire team. There is no Morrison account. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out. You're confused. You've been under a lot of stress. Stop. My voice came out sharper than I'd intended. Just stop lying to me. We stared at each other across my tiny kitchen table, and I realized I was looking at a stranger. This man I'd shared a bed with for 2 years, whose coffee order I knew by heart, whose mother sent me birthday cards. I had no idea who he was. I need some air, he said finally, grabbing his jacket. Ryan, wait. But he was already gone, leaving me alone with cold lo mein and the growing certainty that everything in my life was built on lies. I tried calling Maya, needing someone to help me make sense of Ryan's behavior, but it went straight to voicemail. Twice. By the third call, I realized what I was doing, running to the person who destroyed my career for comfort about my disintegrating relationship. That's when my laptop chimed with a new email notification. My heart jumped, hoping for a job interview request, but the sender made my blood freeze. It was from my work email account. The one that should have been deactivated days ago. The subject line read, "You should stop digging." My hands trembled as I stared at the email. Someone was still accessing my work account, the account that HR had supposedly shut down when they walked me out the door. I clicked on the message, my heart hammering against my ribs. The email was blank except for the subject line, but the timestamp showed it had been sent just minutes ago. While I was sitting here arguing with Ryan, someone at my former office was watching me closely enough to know I'd been investigating. I screenshot everything and immediately tried calling the IT department, but of course, they wouldn't take calls from terminated employees. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so terrifying. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Sorry, missed your calls. Derek and I are having a date night. Everything okay?" Date night. On a Thursday. Maya and Derek had been married for 5 years. Their date nights were scheduled for Saturdays, planned weeks in advance, and usually involved Derek picking restaurants based on Yelp reviews while Maya complained about his choices. They didn't have spontaneous Thursday date nights. I was about to respond when another text came through, this one from a number I didn't recognize. "Stop asking questions about things that don't concern you." My apartment suddenly felt too quiet, too isolated. I lived alone on the 3rd floor of a converted Victorian, and for the first time since moving in, that felt like a liability rather than independence. I double-checked my locks and pulled the curtains closed. The anonymous number was probably a burner phone, but I tried calling it anyway. It went straight to a generic voicemail message. No name, just "leave a message after the tone," in the robotic female voice that came with the phone. I was being threatened. Actually threatened. 3 days ago, my biggest worry was whether to splurge on name-brand pasta sauce. Now someone was monitoring my digital footprint and sending anonymous warnings. The rational part of my brain said I should call the police, but what would I tell them? That my best friend might have sabotaged my presentation and my boyfriend was acting weird. That someone sent me a vague email and text message. I sounded paranoid even to myself. Instead, I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Screenshots of the IT alert showing Maya's workstation accessing my account. Photos of the threatening messages. A timeline of every strange interaction from the past few weeks. That's when I noticed something I'd missed before. In the metadata of the email from my work account, there was an IP address. It took some Googling, but I managed to trace it to a location that made my stomach drop. The email hadn't come from my office building. It had been sent from the Starbucks 2 blocks from my apartment. Someone had been close enough to walk to my front door when they sent that message. I grabbed my keys and jacket, suddenly desperate to get out of my apartment. I needed somewhere public, somewhere safe, somewhere I could think clearly. The 24-hour diner downtown seemed like the best option, bright lights, security cameras, and enough late-night customers that I wouldn't be alone. But as I stepped into the hallway, I heard voices drifting up from the stairwell below. 2 people, trying to keep their voices low but not quite succeeding. Sure she doesn't know. She's starting to figure it out. Today was too close. My blood turned to ice. One voice was definitely male, familiar but muffled by the stairwell acoustics. The other was female, higher-pitched, also familiar. I crept to the top of the stairs and peered down through the banister slats. The angle was wrong to see their faces, but I could make out 2 figures on the landing below, standing close together in a way that suggested intimacy. "We need to be more careful," the woman said, and this time I was certain. It was Maya. And the man she was pressed against, the one running his fingers through her hair in my apartment building at nearly midnight, was Ryan. My legs nearly gave out as I watched them through the banister. Maya's hands were tangled in Ryan's hair, and they were kissing with the desperate intensity of people who'd been forced apart too long. This wasn't a new relationship, their bodies moved together with practiced familiarity, like a dance they'd performed countless times. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to process what I was seeing. My best friend and my boyfriend. In my building. After lying to both of our faces about where they'd be tonight. "How long do we have?" Ryan whispered, his voice carrying up the stairwell. "Derek thinks I'm at book club until 11. We've got maybe an hour." Book club. Maya hadn't been to book club in 6 months, claiming she was too busy with work. But apparently it made convenient cover for whatever this was. "This is getting too complicated," Ryan said, pulling back slightly. "Sarah's starting to ask questions about work stuff I can't answer. And now with her getting fired." That was necessary, Maya cut him off, her voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. She was getting too close to the Meridian account. Another few weeks and she would have been promoted over both of us. Both of us? Maya had never worked on the Meridian account. She'd been assigned to completely different clients. Unless. "I still think we could have found another way," Ryan said. Destroying her presentation was brutal. "It worked, didn't it?" Now there's an opening in the senior coordinator position, and with her gone, I'm the obvious choice. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Maya had sabotaged me to eliminate competition for a promotion I hadn't even known I was being considered for. But that still didn't explain Ryan's involvement. What if she finds out about us? Ryan asked, and I heard genuine worry in his voice. Sarah's not stupid. She's already suspicious about my work schedule. She won't. She trusts me completely. Poor little Sarah, always believing the best in everyone. Maya's laugh was cruel, mocking. She actually thanked me for helping with her presentation. My hands clenched into fists so tight my nails drew blood from my palms. She was enjoying this. The betrayal, the lies, my complete destruction, it was all a game to her. How much longer do we have to keep this up? Ryan asked. Not much longer. I'll get the promotion in a few weeks, and then we can be more open about things. Derek's been talking about wanting kids. I'll let him think it's his idea to separate for a while, claim I need to focus on my career. Then you can break up with Sarah. Maya. Ryan's voice carried a warning I couldn't interpret. What? You're not getting cold feet, are you? We've been planning this for 9 months. 9 months. They'd been planning my destruction for 9 months while I worried about whether Ryan was working too hard, while I covered Maya's shifts and celebrated her successes. I'd been living in a lie so complete I felt dizzy trying to comprehend its scope. I'm not getting cold feet, Ryan said. I just hate seeing her so broken. When she told me about getting fired, she looked like someone had killed her dog. Well, maybe you should have thought about that before you decided you preferred her best friend. The casual cruelty in Maya's voice made my stomach turn. This wasn't passion or love, it was calculated destruction with my life as collateral damage. I heard movement below and quickly crept back from the stairs, slipping into the shadow by my apartment door. Their voices grew fainter as they moved, probably heading to Maya's car or a hotel room where they could continue their betrayal in private. My phone buzzed with a text from Ryan, sorry about earlier. Spending the night at Jake's place to give us both some space. We'll talk tomorrow. Jake's place. Another lie to add to the collection. I waited 15 minutes before I dared move from my hiding spot. When I finally peered down the stairwell, they were gone, leaving me alone with the devastating knowledge that everything I trusted had been a performance. 9 months of lies. 9 months of planning my downfall while pretending to care about my success, my happiness, my future. But now I knew the truth. And I was going to make them pay for every single lie. I spent the next 3 days in a state of controlled fury, documenting everything while pretending to be the same trusting fool they thought I was. Every text from Ryan got a response. Every concerned call from Maya was answered with gratitude for her support. I played my part perfectly while building a case that would destroy them both. But on Sunday afternoon, their deception took a turn that made my blood run cold. Sarah, we need to talk, Maya said when I opened my apartment door. She stood there with Derek, whose usually cheerful face looked drawn and worried. Of course, come in. I forced a smile while my mind raced. Why was Derek here? They settled on my couch, and I noticed Derek's hands shaking as he reached for the water I offered him. Derek has something to tell you, Maya said, her voice gentle but with an undertone I couldn't place. Don't you, honey? Derek cleared his throat, looking like he might vomit. Sarah, God, this is hard to say. I think I might have accidentally caused what happened to you at work. My heart stopped. What do you mean? That night before your big presentation, I was at the office late working on some quarterly reports. You know how Maya sometimes forgets to log out of her computer? He glanced at his wife, who nodded encouragingly. Well, I saw she'd left her email open, and there was this message about client demographics that looked important. I sat down carefully, not trusting my legs to hold me upright. I was trying to forward it to her personal email so she'd see it at home, but I'm terrible with computers. I think I might have accidentally deleted something. Or moved files around. The system was asking me about overwriting documents, and I just kept clicking yes because I didn't know what else to do. Maya reached over and took his hand. Derek came home that night really upset about messing with my computer. When I heard about your presentation going wrong, I started putting pieces together. The performance was flawless. Derek's guilt seemed genuine, his distress real. If I hadn't overheard their conversation in my stairwell, I would have believed every word. Derek feels terrible, Maya continued. We both do. That's why we wanted to tell you the truth. I stared at Derek, this sweet man who collected comic books and made terrible dad jokes, watching him torture himself over a crime his wife had committed. Maya had manipulated him into believing he was responsible for my destruction. Derek, I said slowly, what time were you at the office that night? Around 11, maybe. I stayed until almost 1 finishing those reports. But Maya had accessed my files at 3:47 a.m. She destroyed my presentation hours after Derek left, then convinced him that his innocent mistake was the cause. She was using her own husband as cover for her betrayal. I'm so sorry, Sarah, Derek said, tears actually forming in his eyes. I know how much that job meant to you. I've been trying to figure out how to make it right. How to make it right. I repeated. Maya squeezed his hand. Tell her about your idea. Derek brightened slightly. My cousin works in HR at Pinnacle Marketing. They're looking for someone with your experience. I could put in a good word, explain that what happened wasn't really your fault. My throat went dry. Pinnacle was our biggest competitor. If Derek recommended me there, and if Maya had somehow orchestrated this whole conversation, then... That's incredibly generous, I managed. It's the least I can do. Actually, I already mentioned you to him. He wants to set up an interview this week. I looked at Maya, whose expression was perfectly calibrated, supportive, hopeful, with just the right amount of concern. But I caught something else in her eyes. Satisfaction. She wasn't just cleaning up loose ends. She was positioning me exactly where she wanted me, at her company's biggest rival, where anything I learned could be fed back to her. Where my success would benefit her as much as me. Maya, could you give Derek and me a minute? I said. I want to ask him some technical questions about what happened to my files. Her smile flickered for just a second. Of course. I'll wait in the hall. The moment she was gone, Derek leaned forward urgently. Sarah, I need you to know something else. Maya doesn't know I'm telling you this, but I've been worried about her lately. My pulse quickened. Worried how? She's been acting strange. Working late constantly, getting phone calls she takes in private. Last week I found a hotel receipt in her jacket pocket. His voice dropped to a whisper. I think she might be having an affair. The irony was staggering. Derek suspected his wife's infidelity but had no idea it was with my boyfriend. Maya had hidden her betrayal so well that even her own husband was being driven crazy by suspicion. Have you talked to her about it? I've tried, but she says I'm being paranoid. That the hotel was for a work conference I forgot about. He rubbed his face with both hands. Maybe I am paranoid. Maybe destroying your presentation was my fault, and now I'm imagining problems that don't exist. This good man was being psychologically tortured by the woman who promised to love him. Maya hadn't just betrayed me, she was systematically destroying everyone around her. Derek, I said carefully, what if I told you that you didn't destroy my presentation? That someone else did. His head snapped up. What do you mean? But before I could answer, Maya's voice came from the hallway. Is everything okay in there? Derek immediately straightened, the moment a potential truth lost. Everything's fine, I called back, realizing that I couldn't save Derek without destroying him completely. He wasn't ready to learn that his wife was a monster. But I was ready to show her exactly what kind of monster I could be. That night, I lay awake formulating my revenge. Maya thought she was so clever, using Derek as an unwitting accomplice while manipulating both our lives. But she'd made one crucial mistake, she'd underestimated just how far I was willing to go. By morning, I had a plan that would destroy everything she'd built. First, I needed more evidence. The conversation in my stairwell wasn't enough, I needed proof that would hold up under scrutiny and cause maximum damage. So I did something that 3 days ago would have seemed unthinkable, I started stalking my best friend. I called Derek Tuesday morning, accepting his cousin's job interview offer with enthusiastic gratitude. But more importantly, I asked him about Maya's schedule. She's got that big client dinner Thursday night, he told me. Some pharmaceutical company. She'll be out until at least 10. Perfect. That gave me a 4-hour window. Wednesday afternoon, I drove to Maya's office building and waited in the parking garage. At 5:45, I watched her emerge with her usual group of coworkers, laughing at something on her phone. She looked so normal, so innocuous. No one would suspect the calculating predator underneath that friendly exterior. I followed her car at a distance, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. She didn't go home. Instead, she drove to the Marriott downtown, the same hotel Derek had found a receipt for. 20 minutes later, Ryan's BMW pulled into the same parking lot. I sat in my car watching them disappear into the hotel, and the last tiny part of me that had hoped this was all some terrible misunderstanding finally died. They weren't just having an affair, they were flaunting it, meeting in public places where anyone could see them. But that gave me an idea. I spent Thursday preparing my trap with military precision. I bought a new phone with cash, created fake social media accounts, and researched every detail of Maya's life that I'd previously known as her friend but never really examined as her enemy. The pharmaceutical dinner was being held at the Bentley Hotel's top-floor restaurant. Maya had mentioned it casually to Derek, probably never imagining he'd share that information with me. She'd also posted about it on Instagram that morning, posing in her new dress with the caption, "Big night ahead. Briefcase sparkles." At 7 p.m., I positioned myself in the hotel lobby with a clear view of the elevators. Maya emerged at 7:45, checking her phone and heading straight for the exit. The dinner was supposed to run until 10, but she was leaving after less than an hour. She was going to meet Ryan. I followed her to a wine bar across town, somewhere intimate and dimly lit where they clearly felt safe from discovery. Through the window, I watched them at a corner table, Maya's hand resting on Ryan's thigh while he fed her bites of dessert. That's when I made my first move. Using my burner phone, I sent a text to Derek, "Thought you should know your wife is at Vintner's wine bar with another man. Table by the back window. A concerned friend." Then I settled in to wait. Derek arrived within 20 minutes, his face pale and determined. I watched from across the street as he stood outside the wine bar, clearly gathering courage. When he finally walked inside, I moved closer to the window. The confrontation was brief but explosive. Derek approached their table, said something that made Maya's face go white and Ryan jumped to his feet. Maya started gesticulating wildly, clearly trying to explain, but Derek was already walking away. Ryan threw money on the table and chased after Derek, leaving Maya alone at the table, her perfect evening in ruins. But I wasn't done. Not even close. As Maya sat there frantically texting, probably trying to reach both Derek and Ryan, I sent her a message from my burner phone, "Enjoying your dinner? Your husband certainly isn't." I watched her read the text, watched her realize that someone had orchestrated Derek's appearance. Her eyes darted around the restaurant, searching for threats, but I was safely hidden across the street. Her phone rang immediately, Derek calling back. Through the window, I could see her answering desperately, but the call lasted less than 30 seconds before Derek hung up on her. Maya gathered her things and rushed outside, her composure completely shattered. She stood on the sidewalk looking lost, probably realizing that her carefully constructed web of lies was unraveling faster than she could repair it. That's when I sent the final text of the evening, "This is just the beginning. You destroyed my life systematically. Now I'm returning the favor. Sleep well." Face blowing a kiss. Maya spun around frantically, scanning every face on the street, but I was already gone. Phase 1 of my revenge was complete. But the real destruction was just getting started. I woke up Friday morning to 17 missed calls from Maya and 43 text messages that progressed from frantic apologies to desperate pleas to thinly veiled threats. But it was the voicemail from Derek at 2:14 a.m. that made my blood run cold. "Sarah, it's Derek. I don't know who else to call." Maya came home screaming about some conspiracy, saying someone's trying to destroy her marriage. "She's claiming you're involved somehow, that you're having a breakdown and targeting innocent people." His voice cracked. She showed me photos of you following her, said you've been sending threatening messages. I don't know what to believe anymore, but if you're going through something, please get help. This isn't like you. My stomach dropped. Maya had turned the tables faster than I'd anticipated, painting me as the unstable ex-employee stalking her former colleagues. Worse, she had photos, which meant she'd spotted my surveillance and documented it instead of confronting me directly. I was still processing this development when my phone rang. Ryan's name flashed on the screen. We need to talk, he said without preamble. Meet me at Riverside Park in an hour. Come alone. Ryan, 1 hour, Sarah. If you don't show up, I'm calling the police about your harassment campaign. The line went dead. Riverside Park was deserted except for a few joggers and dog walkers. I found Ryan sitting on our old bench, the one where we'd had our first real conversation 2 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept, but his expression was cold as granite. Maya told me everything, he said as I approached. How you've been following us, sending threatening messages, trying to destroy her marriage because you can't handle being fired. That's rich, coming from someone who's been lying to me for 9 months. Lying about what? Working late. Having a demanding job. He stood up, towering over me. Sarah, you're having a breakdown. This conspiracy theory about Maya sabotaging you is. I heard you. Both of you. In my stairwell Tuesday night, talking about how you've been planning this for 9 months. Ryan's face didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. You're delusional. I was never in your building Tuesday night. I was at Jake's place, he can verify that. Then explain the hotel receipts Derek found. Explain why Maya left her pharmaceutical dinner early to meet you at Vintner's. Maya is my friend. We work in the same industry, we grab drinks sometimes. That doesn't make us lovers. His voice carried that practice patience people use with unstable individuals. Sarah, you're connecting dots that don't exist because you need someone to blame for your failures. The gaslighting was masterful. If I hadn't seen them kissing with my own eyes, if I hadn't heard Maya's cruel laughter, I might have started doubting my own sanity. Show me your phone, I said suddenly. What? Your text messages with Maya. If you're just friends, you won't mind showing me your conversations. Ryan's jaw tightened. I'm not showing you anything. This paranoid behavior is exactly why our relationship isn't working anymore. Our relationship isn't working because you're sleeping with my best friend. No, our relationship isn't working because you become obsessed with conspiracy theories instead of taking responsibility for your own mistakes. He stepped closer, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt physically intimidated by him. Maya saved my number from when we all hung out together. We text about work stuff, maybe coordinate helping you through this crisis. That's it. The lies flowed so smoothly I almost admired his skill. But then he made a mistake. Besides, Ryan continued, if Maya and I were having some secret affair, don't you think Derek would have noticed something when he confronted us last night? I hadn't told him about Derek confronting them. That detail had come from Maya, which meant they'd coordinated this story together. You're right, I said, forcing my voice to sound defeated. I'm probably just seeing things that aren't there. Relief flickered across his features. Sarah, you've been under incredible stress. Losing your job, money problems, it's understandable that you'd look for someone to blame. I should apologize to Maya. That would be good. She's really hurt by all this. She's been trying to help you, and you've turned on her completely. I nodded, playing the part of the chastened ex-girlfriend accepting responsibility for her delusions. But inside, my resolve was hardening like steel. They thought they were so clever, manipulating me even now, making me question my own perceptions. But their coordination had revealed the truth more clearly than any surveillance could have. You're breaking up with me, aren't you? I asked quietly. Ryan's expression softened slightly. I think we need some space. You need time to work on yourself, and I need to figure out if I can trust you again after all this. Perfect. He was giving me the freedom to move without his scrutiny while positioning himself as the reasonable partner pushed to his limits. I understand, I said. I'll pack up your things. As I watched him walk away, probably rushing to update Maya on how successfully they'd manipulated me, I felt something cold and crystalline settle in my chest. They wanted to play games with my sanity. They were about to discover exactly how sane, and how ruthless, a truly betrayed woman could be. I spent the weekend playing the perfect penitent ex-girlfriend, sending apologetic texts to both Ryan and Maya about my paranoid behavior. Maya responded with saccharine forgiveness, suggesting we meet for coffee to clear the air. Ryan was cooler but agreed to let me return his belongings, probably eager to eliminate any excuse for future contact. But while they thought I was wallowing in self-recrimination, I was actually conducting the most important research of my life. The Pinnacle marketing interview Derek had arranged was scheduled for Monday morning. What Maya didn't know was that I'd spent 3 years learning everything about our industry's power dynamics, including which executives at Pinnacle had been burned by our company in the past. More specifically, which ones had lost major accounts to Maya's aggressive poaching tactics. Jennifer Walsh, Pinnacle's VP of Client Relations, had watched Maya steal 3 major pharmaceutical clients over the past 2 years. I'd seen Jennifer's carefully controlled fury at industry mixers, heard the whispered complaints about Maya's unethical recruitment practices. Jennifer would be very interested to learn about certain confidential client strategies that had mysteriously appeared in Maya's presentations shortly after friendly drinks with competitors' employees. The interview went better than I dared hope. Jennifer was sharp, professional, and clearly impressed by my portfolio. But when I mentioned my previous company, her expression darkened. I'm familiar with some of your former colleagues, she said carefully. Particularly Maya Chen. She's made quite an impression in our industry. She's certainly ambitious, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Ambitious is one word for it. Jennifer leaned back in her chair. Would you be comfortable working in direct competition with your former team? It was a loaded question, and we both knew it. I believe in professional integrity above personal relationships, I said. If someone has acted unethically, they should face appropriate consequences. Jennifer's smile was razor-sharp. I think you'll fit in well here. When can you start? By Tuesday afternoon, I was sitting in a glass office 30 floors above the city, with access to Pinnacle's client database and a direct line to Jennifer Walsh. But more importantly, I had something Maya would never see coming: institutional support for destroying her career. "Sarah, I need to be completely transparent with you," Jennifer said during my second day. "We hired you partly because of your talent, but also because we need someone who understands how Maya Chen operates. She's been systematically undermining our client relationships for years." I kept my expression carefully neutral. "What kind of undermining?" "Industrial espionage dressed up as friendship. She cultivates relationships with our account managers, takes them out for drinks, gets them talking about strategy. Then suddenly our pitches are getting beaten by presentations that mirror our exact approach." My pulse quickened. Maya had been playing this game longer than I'd realized. "We've suspected it for months but could never prove anything," Jennifer continued. "Her methods are too sophisticated, too personal. She doesn't hack computers or steal files, she manipulates people into giving her information voluntarily. Just like she manipulated me into sharing every detail about the Meridian account." "What would you need to prove it?" I asked carefully. Jennifer's eyes gleamed. "Someone on the inside. Someone she trusts enough to reveal her methods." That evening, I called Maya from my new office, letting genuine excitement color my voice. "You'll never guess what happened. I got the Pinnacle job. Derek's cousin came through." "Oh my God, Sarah, that's amazing." Maya's enthusiasm sounded genuine, but I caught the calculating pause underneath. "When do you start?" "I already did. Jennifer Walsh seems really impressed with my work." I paused deliberately. "She mentioned you, actually. Said you two have crossed paths at industry events." Another pause, longer this time. "Jennifer and I have a complicated professional relationship. You should be careful around her, she can be vindictive when she doesn't get her way." Warning me off Jennifer while simultaneously fishing for information about Pinnacle's operations. Maya was already calculating how to use my new position to her advantage. "Actually," I said, injecting uncertainty into my tone, "I was hoping you could give me some advice. Jennifer's been asking about our old client strategies, and I'm not sure how much I should share." The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "What kind of questions?" Maya asked finally, her voice carefully controlled. "Just industry stuff. Client preferences, successful pitch strategies. Nothing confidential, but..." I let my voice trail off suggestively. "Sarah, you need to be very careful. Corporate espionage is a serious accusation, and Jennifer has a reputation for pushing boundaries." The projection was breathtaking, Maya warning me about the exact crimes she'd been committing for years. "Of course," I said quickly. "I would never do anything unethical. But maybe we could grab coffee sometime. I could really use your advice on navigating office politics." "I'd love that," Maya said, and this time I heard genuine warmth return to her voice. "How about Thursday after work?" "Perfect." Maya thought she was positioning herself to pump me for Pinnacle's secrets while simultaneously controlling what information I might share about our old company. What she didn't realize was that I'd just handed Jennifer Walsh the perfect opportunity to catch Maya red-handed. The trap was set. Now all I had to do was make sure Maya walked straight into it. Thursday evening came faster than I'd anticipated, and as I sat across from Maya at our usual coffee shop, I almost lost my nerve. She looked so familiar, the same crooked smile when she laughed, the same habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. For a split second, I remembered why I'd loved her like a sister. Then she started talking. "You look so much better," Maya said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "I was really worried about you after everything. But landing the Pinnacle job, God, Sarah, I'm so proud of you for bouncing back. The performance was flawless. Concern, pride, genuine affection, if I hadn't known better, would have believed every word. I couldn't have done it without Derek's help," I said, testing the waters. "How are things at home?" "He seemed pretty upset the other night." Maya's smile flickered for just a moment. "Oh, that. We worked it out. Marriage stuff, you know. Derek gets insecure sometimes, sees problems that don't exist." She waved her hand dismissively. "He's been watching too many cheating spouse reality shows." The casual way she dismissed Derek's pain made my stomach turn, but I kept my expression sympathetic. "That must be so hard for both of you." "It is, but we're stronger than ever now. Sometimes these little crises actually bring couples closer together." Maya leaned forward conspiratorially. "But enough about my drama, tell me about Pinnacle. Jennifer Walsh has such a reputation. What's she really like?" Here it was. Less than 10 minutes into coffee, and Maya was already fishing for inside information. "She's intense," I said carefully. "Very focused on beating the competition. She asks a lot of questions about how other companies operate." "What kind of questions?" I pulled out my phone, pretending to check notes. "Weird stuff. Like, she wanted to know about our client retention strategies, which presentations worked best for pharmaceutical accounts. She even asked about the Meridian pitch." Maya went very still. "The Meridian pitch? Why would she care about that disaster?" That's what I thought. But apparently Pinnacle was also courting Meridian before what happened to me. Jennifer thinks there might have been information leaks. I looked up from my phone with wide, innocent eyes. She's convinced someone at our company was feeding intelligence to competitors. The color drained from Maya's face so quickly I thought she might faint. That's a serious accusation," she stammered. "I mean, corporate espionage. That could destroy someone's entire career." "I know, right? She's actually launching some kind of internal investigation. Hiring private investigators, analyzing communication patterns. None of this was true, but Maya didn't need to know that. She's convinced she can prove it." Maya's coffee cup rattled against the saucer as she set it down with shaking hands. "Sarah, you need to be careful. These corporate witch hunts can spiral out of control. Innocent people get caught in the crossfire." "Jennifer seems pretty confident she knows who she's looking for," I continued, watching Maya's face carefully. "She mentioned something about hotel receipts and documented meetings between our company's employees. Maya's phone started buzzing insistently. She glanced at it, and I caught Ryan's name on the screen before she declined the call. I should probably get going, she said suddenly, gathering her purse. Derek's making dinner, and I promised I'd be home early. Of course. But Maya? I caught her arm as she stood. If Jennifer asks me anything else about our old company, what should I tell her? The question hung in the air between us, loaded with implications we both understood. Maya stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift behind her eyes, a flicker of suspicion, quickly suppressed. Tell her the truth, Maya said finally. That our company operates with complete professional integrity, and anyone suggesting otherwise is probably projecting their own unethical behavior. After she left, I sat alone in a coffee shop, my hands trembling with adrenaline. Maya was scared, genuinely terrified, which meant my fictional investigation had hit closer to home than I'd dared hope. But her fear also meant she'd be desperate now. And desperate people made dangerous, unpredictable choices. I was about to discover exactly how dangerous Maya could be when she felt cornered. I woke up Friday morning to find my apartment door unlocked. I always locked it, obsessively so since receiving those threatening messages. But as I stumbled toward the kitchen for coffee, the deadbolt was turned and the chain hung loose against the doorframe. My blood turned to ice as I noticed other details. My laptop had been moved slightly on the coffee table, papers on my kitchen counter were no longer in the neat stack I'd left them in, and my bedroom door, which I always kept closed, stood halfway open. Someone had been in my apartment while I slept. I grabbed a kitchen knife and checked every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. Nothing was missing, but everything felt violated. Whoever had broken in hadn't come to steal, they'd come to send a message. That's when I found it, a single photograph placed carefully on my pillow. It was a picture of me sitting in a coffee shop yesterday, taken from across the street through the window. Maya and I were clearly visible at our table, and someone had drawn a red circle around my face with what looked like lipstick. On the back, in handwriting I didn't recognize, "Stop playing games you can't win." My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the photo. This wasn't Maya's neat script or Ryan's messy scrawl. Someone else was involved, someone willing to break into apartments and leave threatening evidence. I called the police immediately, but Officer Martinez who responded seemed skeptical of my story about workplace revenge and corporate espionage. "So you think your ex-best friend hired someone to break into your apartment because you got a job at a competing company?" he asked, examining the photograph with barely concealed disbelief. "I know how it sounds, but..." "Ma'am, there's no sign of forced entry." "Are you certain you locked the door last night?" The implication was clear. He thought I was either lying or losing my mind. Another victory for Maya's gaslighting campaign. After Officer Martinez left with a half-hearted promise to look into it, I sat on my couch staring at that photograph and realized how completely isolated I'd become. Maya had systematically destroyed my credibility with everyone who might have helped me. Derek thought I was having a breakdown, Ryan believed I was a paranoid stalker, and now the police saw me as another unhinged woman spinning conspiracy theories. But Maya had made one crucial mistake. By escalating to home invasion and physical threats, she'd revealed just how desperate she was becoming. Which meant my fictional investigation had spooked her more than I'd realized. I called Jennifer Walsh, my voice carefully controlled despite the terror still coursing through my veins. "Jennifer, I had an interesting conversation with Maya Chin yesterday. I think she might be more worried about corporate espionage allegations than she's letting on." "Oh. What makes you say that?" I described Maya's reaction to my made-up investigation, her obvious panic, her sudden departure. What I didn't mention was waking up to a violated apartment and threatening photographs. "Fascinating," Jennifer murmured. "Sarah, how would you feel about accelerating our timeline? Instead of gathering evidence slowly, what if we forced her hand?" "What did you have in mind?" "Pinnacle is pitching the Westfield Pharmaceutical account next week, a massive contract that Maya's company is also pursuing. What if we let it slip that we have insider information about their strategy?" My pulse quickened. "You want to make her think I'm feeding you intelligence?" "Exactly. If she's as guilty as we suspect, she'll panic and make a mistake. Probably try to extract information from you more aggressively." "More aggressively than breaking into my apartment?" I wasn't sure I could handle Maya's idea of aggressive, but I also knew this might be my only chance to expose her before she destroyed me completely. What if she retaliates? "Sarah, if Maya Chen is conducting industrial espionage, she's already retaliating. The question is whether we're going to let her control the narrative or force her to reveal her true nature." Jennifer was right. Maya had already escalated beyond professional sabotage into personal terrorism. Running away wouldn't protect me, it would only give her time to plan something worse. "Okay," I said finally. "Let's force her hand." "Perfect. I'll make sure the rumors about our insider information reach her by Monday morning. Then we wait and see how desperate she really is." As I hung up, I stared at the photograph still lying on my coffee table. Maya thought she could intimidate me into silence, convince everyone I was unstable, and walk away from her crimes without consequences. She was about to learn exactly how wrong she was. But first, I needed to survive whatever she was planning to do next. Monday morning arrived with news that made my blood freeze. Derek had been hospitalized over the weekend. "Severe anxiety attack," Maya explained when she called, her voice perfectly calibrated between concern and exhaustion. "He collapsed at work Friday afternoon. They're keeping him for observation." The timing was too convenient to be coincidental. Derek had been getting closer to the truth about Maya's affair, asking uncomfortable questions about her schedule. Now suddenly he was sedated in a hospital bed, unable to investigate further. "How terrible," I said, injecting genuine worry into my voice. "Can I visit him?" "The doctors say he needs complete rest. No visitors except immediate family." Maya's response came too quickly, too rehearsed. "But I'll tell him you called." After we hung up, I stared at my phone in horror. Maya had either orchestrated Derek's hospitalization or was using his genuine medical crisis to eliminate him as a threat. Either way, the sweet man who collected comic books and worried about accidentally damaging computer files was now trapped in Maya's web of lies, possibly sedated into silence. I was still processing this development when Jennifer Walsh called with an update on our plan. "The rumors worked perfectly," she said, barely containing her excitement. 3 different sources confirmed that Maya's been making frantic calls since this morning, trying to figure out what information you might have shared with us. What kind of calls? She contacted 2 of our former employees, fishing for details about our Westfield strategy. Then she tried to schedule an emergency lunch with Tom Morrison from Hendricks Consulting, apparently claiming she had urgent information about Pinnacle's unethical practices. Tom Morrison. The same fictional Morrison account that Ryan had slipped up about weeks ago. Maya was mobilizing her entire network of industry contacts, probably including Ryan, to gather intelligence about Pinnacle's operations. Jennifer, I said carefully, what if Maya tries to turn this around? Make it look like I'm the one conducting espionage. That's exactly what I'm hoping she'll do. Corporate espionage is notoriously difficult to prove unless someone gets sloppy. But false accusations? Those leave paper trails. Before I could ask what she meant, my personal phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, Meridian Coffee Shop, 2 p.m. Come alone or Derek's condition gets worse. My hands started shaking so violently I nearly dropped the phone. Maya wasn't just threatening me anymore, she was threatening Derek, her own husband, a man who was apparently lying in a hospital bed because he'd gotten too close to her secrets. Sarah? Are you still there? Jennifer, I have to go. Something's come up. I hung up without explanation, staring at that message until the words blurred together. Maya had crossed a line I hadn't even known existed. She was holding her hospitalized husband's health hostage to control my behavior. But she also just confessed, in writing, to having power over Derek's medical condition. Which meant either she'd caused his hospitalization or she had access to his treatment, both of which were evidence of crimes far more serious than corporate espionage. I screenshot the message and sent copies to 3 different email accounts, then sat in my office trying to decide whether to meet Maya or call the police. The problem was, I still had no proof that Derek's condition wasn't genuinely medical. Maya was too smart to explicitly threaten him in a text message, and, gets worse, could be interpreted as natural disease progression rather than deliberate harm. At 1:45 p.m., I walked into the Meridian Coffee Shop where this nightmare had begun, where Maya had first started planning my destruction. She sat at a corner table, looking perfectly composed despite the chaos she'd been orchestrating all morning. But when I got closer, I noticed details that suggested her control was more fragile than it appeared. Her makeup was slightly smudged around the eyes, her usually perfect hair had been twisted and retwisted until it looked uneven, and her hands trembled slightly as she lifted her coffee cup. Maya was falling apart. Which made her infinitely more dangerous than she'd ever been before. Hello, Sarah, she said as I sat down. We need to discuss your future at Pinnacle. I sat across from Maya, every muscle in my body tense as I studied her deteriorating facade. Up close, the cracks were even more visible, a slight twitch in her left eye, the way she kept checking her phone, the barely controlled tremor in her voice. Let's cut the games, Maya, I said quietly. What do you want? Her smile was razor-sharp but unstable. I want you to understand something very important about your new position at Pinnacle. You're not just representing yourself anymore, your actions have consequences for people you care about. Like Derek. Derek is fragile right now. The doctors say stress could trigger another episode. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. It would be such a shame if he received upsetting news about his wife's loyalty while he's recovering. The threat was veiled but unmistakable. Maya was using Derek's medical condition as leverage, banking on my unwillingness to cause him additional trauma. What exactly are you asking me to do? Jennifer Walsh has been spreading rumors about industrial espionage. I need you to help me understand what specific allegations she's making. Maya's fingers drummed against the table. And I need you to feed her some corrected information about our company's practices. So this was it. Maya wanted me to become her double agent, feeding false intelligence to Pinnacle while gathering their legitimate strategies for her benefit. The same scheme she'd probably been running with multiple industry contacts for years. And if I refuse? Maya's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it with theatrical concern. Oh dear. Derek's asking for me again. The poor thing gets so agitated when I'm not there. She looked back at me with cold calculation. It's amazing how much a patient's recovery depends on their emotional state. My blood ran cold, but I forced myself to remain calm. Maya was revealing more than she realized with these threats. She had unusual access to Derek's medical information and possibly his care. That kind of access would require either corrupting medical staff or having legitimate authority over his treatment decisions. I need time to think, I said. Of course. But not too much time. Derek's condition is dynamic. She stood gracefully, gathering her purse. Oh, and Sarah. I'd be very careful about involving outside parties in our conversation. Derek's recovery depends on maintaining a peaceful, stress-free environment. As she walked away, I noticed something that made my heart race. Maya had left her phone on the table. For someone as controlling as her, that seemed like an impossible oversight unless. I glanced around the coffee shop and spotted him immediately. Ryan sat at a table near the window, partially hidden behind a newspaper but clearly watching our interaction. He'd been recording our conversation, probably getting audio of me agreeing to corporate espionage or threatening Derek. The setup was masterful. Maya makes threats and demands while Ryan documents my responses, creating evidence that I was the aggressor in this situation. If I'd agreed to her demands, they'd have proof of my willingness to commit espionage. If I'd threatened Derek, they'd have evidence of my unhinged behavior. But they'd made one critical mistake. I'd seen Ryan before Maya finished her performance. I walked calmly to the counter, ordered another coffee, and used the opportunity to text Jennifer Walsh, emergency meeting needed. Maya Chin just attempted to recruit me for espionage. I have witnesses. Then I approached Maya's abandoned table and picked up her phone, making sure Ryan could see me clearly. The device was unlocked, displaying a text thread that made my stomach drop. The messages weren't to medical staff or Derek's doctors. They were to someone listed as insurance contact, discussing accelerated claim processing and documentation requirements for mental health coverage. Maya wasn't threatening Derek's medical care, she was planning to have him committed. The final text, sent just minutes before our meeting, read, patient showing increased paranoia about spouse's fidelity. Recommend 72-hour psychiatric hold for evaluation. I screenshot everything before Maya could return, my hands shaking as I realized the true scope of her plan. She wasn't just threatening Derek, she was systematically destroying his credibility and freedom, positioning herself to control his medical decisions while painting his suspicions about her affair as symptoms of mental illness. Ryan was already moving toward me, probably realizing I discovered something crucial. But I was done playing defense. It was time to show Maya exactly what kind of monster she'd created. I stood up slowly, Maya's phone still in my hand as Ryan approached, his face a mask of fake concern. Sarah, you look upset. Maybe you should sit down. Maybe you should explain this. I held up the phone, displaying the insurance texts. Planning to have Derek committed? That's a new low, even for you. Ryan's expression shifted from concern to panic as he realized what I discovered. Sarah, you're taking that out of context. Am I? My voice carried across the coffee shop, drawing stares from other customers. Because it looks like your girlfriend is planning to have her husband institutionalized to cover up your affair. Maya had returned, drawn by the commotion, and her face went white as she saw her phone in my hands. Give that back. You have no right. No right? I laughed, high and sharp. You destroyed my career, manipulated your husband, threatened me in my own home, and now you're planning to steal Derek's freedom. I'd say I have every right. You're having another breakdown, Maya said desperately, reaching for her phone. Everyone can see you're not stable. Actually, everyone can see exactly what you are. I pulled out my own phone, opening the recording app I'd started when I first spotted Ryan. Including the police, who are very interested in your text messages about Derek's condition. Maya's composure finally cracked completely. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Derek was going to ruin everything, asking questions, following me. So you had him hospitalized. He's sick. Genuinely sick. Tears were streaming down her face now, her voice rising to near hysteria. The paranoia, the accusations, I just helped the doctor see what was really happening. Ryan grabbed her arm. Maya, stop talking. But Maya was beyond reason, 9 months of careful planning unraveling in real time. You have no idea what I sacrificed for this. Working twice as hard as everyone else, playing politics, managing Derek's insecurities and Ryan's guilt. Maya, shut up. Ryan hissed. And then perfect little Sarah gets handed the Meridian account like it means nothing. Like she deserves success more than I do. Maya turned to the crowd of customers now openly watching our confrontation. She never had to fight for anything. Never had to choose between love and ambition. I felt a strange calm settle over me as I watched Maya destroy herself with her own words. So you chose ambition. I chose survival, Maya spat. In a world that gives women scraps while men get everything handed to them. Ryan understood that. He understood what we could build together. By destroying everyone else. By taking what we deserved. The coffee shop had gone completely silent except for Maya's ragged breathing. Even Ryan had stepped back, probably realizing that standing next to her was career suicide. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer Walsh, police en route. Keep her talking. Maya, I said gently, Derek loved you. Really loved you. Didn't that matter at all? For a moment, something human flickered behind her eyes. Derek. Derek was safe. Predictable. But Ryan made me feel alive. She looked at Ryan desperately. Tell her. Tell her what we have is real. Ryan wouldn't meet her eyes. Maya, I think we should call lawyers. The betrayal hit her like a physical blow. Ryan, the man she destroyed lives for, was already distancing himself, calculating his own survival. You're abandoning me too. Maya whispered. I'm protecting myself, Ryan said flatly. Something you should have done before you started threatening people. Maya crumpled then, sinking into her chair as sirens grew audible in the distance. The calculating predator was gone, leaving only a broken woman who'd sacrificed everything, her marriage, her integrity, her sanity, for love that had never been real. As the police entered the coffee shop, I felt something I hadn't expected, pity. Maya had lost everything. Derek would divorce her career was over, and criminal charges were inevitable. Meanwhile, I had a new job, evidence of my innocence, and most importantly, the truth. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting someone destroy themselves.